Most of you are weak because you're impatient. You want results now. Money now, muscles now, respect now. You scroll for 10 seconds and you're bored. You work for 2 weeks and you think you deserve a crown. That's not ambition. That's addiction to instant gratification, and it's killing your potential. Patience isn't waiting around doing nothing. Patience is the ability to stay dangerous while time does its job. If you can't sit in the fire without panicking, you're not built for power. You've been lied to. They told you speed is everything. Move fast, act fast, win fast. No, speed without control is chaos. Real power is controlled aggression stretched over time. The lion doesn't sprint all day. He waits, watches, measures. Then he moves once and it's over. That's mental strength. That's patience. And most of you don't have it because you can't handle silence. You can't handle slow progress. You can't handle not being applauded. Let me explain something most men are too soft to understand. Speaking in tongues isn't about religion. It's about transformation. It's about developing a language the average man doesn't understand. When you start thinking differently, acting differently, moving differently, you sound insane to the weak. Discipline sounds crazy to lazy people. Delayed gratification sounds stupid to broke people. Total focus sounds obsessive to distracted men. When you elevate, you start speaking a different tongue, and they can't translate it because they don't live it. Patience is that language. It's the dialect of high-value men. When you're building your body in silence for years, when you're stacking money quietly while everyone parties, when you're sharpening your mind while others argue online, you're speaking in tongues. They don't get it. They mock it. They doubt it. Good. Let them. Their confusion is proof you're operating on a different frequency. Mental strength isn't loud emotion. It's controlled silence. It's waking up every day and executing the plan even when there's no visible reward. It's knowing that time is your weapon, not your enemy. Weak men rush because they don't trust themselves. Strong men take their time because they know they're inevitable. That's dominance. That's identity shift. You stop identifying as a guy who tries and start identifying as a man who builds empires brick by brick. Impatience is emotional instability disguised as ambition. If you can't endure boredom, you'll never endure greatness. The process is repetitive. It's ugly. It's lonely. And that's why it works. Because most men quit. They need constant validation. They need noise. They need attention. A patient man doesn't. He knows every silent day compounds, every unseen rep counts, every disciplined decision stacks. When you master patience, you control time. And when you control time, you control outcomes. You don't panic in business. You don't react emotionally in relationships. You don't fold under pressure. You observe, you calculate, you strike. That's the mindset shift. You stop being reactive. You become strategic. You stop chasing results. You build systems. That's a different tongue. That's a different species of man. Patience is proof you believe in your own dominance. It says, I don't need applause today because I know who I'm becoming. That level of certainty terrifies average people. They need immediate proof. You don't. You're building something they can't even see yet. And when it finally shows, they'll call you lucky. They won't see the years you stayed quiet while your mind got sharper and your standards got higher. Most men misunderstand patience because they confuse it with weakness. They think if you're not loud, not rushing, not constantly flexing your progress, then you're somehow falling behind. That's amateur thinking. Patience is not passive. It's controlled aggression. It's pressure applied with precision. It's the ability to hold your fire while everyone else is spraying bullets in the dark. Look around. Most people move fast because they're nervous. They send impulsive messages. They jump into bad investments. They quit routines after 2 weeks because results are dramatic enough. That's not speed. That's panic. And panic is expensive. The market punishes it. Business punishes it. Life punishes it. If you don't have control over your impulses, you don't have control over your future. Controlled aggression means you wake up every day with intent. You train hard, but you don't injure yourself trying to prove something. You build your business, but you don't gamble your reputation for quick cash. You pursue excellence, but you don't beg for validation. There's a difference between hunger and desperation. Hunger builds empires. Desperation burns them down. A dangerous man isn't the loudest in the room. He's the one who can sit still while everyone else is vibrating with insecurity. He listens more than he speaks. He studies patterns. He waits for the right moment. And when he moves, it's calculated. One decision, one action, maximum impact. That's what separates a professional from an amateur. Amateurs act to feel important. Professionals act to get results. If you can't delay gratification, you will always be controlled by someone who can. That's a brutal truth. The man who can endure discomfort longer has the advantage. The man who can train consistently for 5 years without applause will crush the guy who trains hard for 3 months and quits. The man who invests steadily over a decade will dominate the one chasing hype trends every quarter. Controlled aggression compounds. Emotional outbursts collapse. You think patience is slow? No, it's strategic pacing. It's knowing that sustainable dominance beats temporary hype every single time. Flashy wins attract attention. Relentless discipline builds leverage, and leverage is power. When you build skill quietly, stack capital quietly, sharpen your network quietly, you're increasing your options. Options are freedom. Freedom is real status. Most men sabotage themselves because they can't handle the quiet phase, the grind without recognition, the work without celebration. They want the trophy before they've earned the muscle. Controlled aggression means you fall in love with the process, not the applause. You understand that repetition is sharpening you, that boredom is building your endurance, that silence is forging your identity. You don't need to rush to prove you're strong. Real strength doesn't seek approval. It seeks precision. You measure your moves. You calculate risk. You apply force where it matters. That's why the disciplined man looks calm under pressure. It's not that he lacks intensity. It's that his intensity is directed, focused, contained, like a loaded weapon with the safety on. The energy is there. The violence is there, but it's under command. Controlled aggression also means emotional restraint. You don't react to insults. You don't over-celebrate small wins. You don't spiral when things go wrong. You stay steady. Because stability is intimidating. When chaos hits and you remain composed, you instantly gain authority. People trust the man who doesn't flinch. Investors trust him. Partners respect him. Competitors fear him. This is what mental strength looks like in the real world. Not screaming motivation, not impulsive risks. Not dramatic announcements. It's consistency with intensity. It's discipline with vision. It's knowing exactly when to accelerate and exactly when to hold position. Right balance is rare, and rarity is value. Controlled aggression turns time into an ally. Every day you apply focused effort, you're stacking advantage. Every day you refuse to react emotionally, you're strengthening your position. Most people burn energy. You conserve and deploy it. That's power, not chaotic movement. Not frantic ambition, calm, sustained, deliberate force aimed at long-term dominance. Impatience feels powerful in the moment. It feels like ambition. It feels like urgency. But strip away the emotion and what you'll usually find underneath is insecurity. A man who cannot wait is a man who does not trust his own trajectory. He needs immediate proof because he doesn't fully believe in his long-term value. That's not drive. That's emotional instability wearing a confident mask. Watch how most people operate. They start a business and expect profit in months. They hit the gym and expect a transformation in weeks. They read a book and think they've mastered a skill. When reality doesn't match their fantasy timeline, frustration kicks in. Then doubt. Then quitting. That cycle isn't about lack of talent. It's about lack of emotional control. If your motivation collapses the moment progress slows down, you were never disciplined. You were just excited. Excitement is temporary. Stability is power, and patience is the inability to tolerate discomfort, and discomfort is the price of growth. When results don't show up instantly, your ego gets bruised. You start questioning the plan. You start looking for shortcuts. You start comparing yourself to others. That emotional spiral is what destroys potential, not competition, not bad luck. Your own lack of composure under slow progress. There's a reason high performers move differently. They don't panic when outcomes take time. They expect it. They build their strategies around long-term execution. They understand that real competence takes repetition, and repetition is boring. The average man can handle intensity for a few days. Very few can handle monotony for years. That's where separation happens. Impatience is dangerous because it pushes you toward impulsive decisions. You overtrain and injure yourself. You overspend to look successful. You jump between opportunities instead of mastering one. You speak too soon. You react too quickly. You reveal insecurity without realizing it. Emotional volatility is expensive. It costs you money, reputation, leverage, and respect. Control is rare, and rare is valuable. If you need constant feedback to stay focused, you are externally driven. That means your environment controls you. If people praise you, you work harder. If they ignore you, you slow down. That's fragile. A mentally strong man operates independently of applause. He understands that external validation is unpredictable, so he builds internal standards that don't shift with opinions. Impatience is also rooted in comparison. Social media has amplified this weakness. You see curated success and assume everyone else is winning faster. That illusion creates artificial pressure. You feel behind even when you're on schedule. So you rush, you force moves that aren't ready, you abandon strategies that simply need more time. The irony is brutal. In trying to catch up, you sabotage yourself. Strength is measured by how calmly you can endure uncertainty. Can you continue executing when there is no visible reward? Can you trust your preparation when outcomes are delayed? Can you stay composed when others seem ahead? If not, your foundation is weak, and weak foundations collapse under pressure. Impatience is emotional noise. It clouds judgment. It distorts perception. It makes you reactive instead of strategic. Strategic men think in decades. Reactive men think in days. The difference in results is massive. When you zoom out and focus on sustained effort, daily fluctuations lose their power over you. Small setbacks don't feel catastrophic. Slow months don't feel like failure. They feel like part of the process. You don't eliminate impatience by suppressing it. You eliminate it by strengthening your identity. When you see yourself as a long-term builder, your timeline changes. You stop chasing instant gratification and start respecting compounding effort. You stop asking, why isn't this working yet? And start asking, am I executing consistently enough? That shift alone separates amateurs from professionals. Professionals don't need emotional highs to stay committed. They operate on systems, standards, and discipline. They measure progress objectively. They adjust calmly. They don't implode because things take longer than expected. If your mindset requires constant stimulation, you will always be at the mercy of circumstances. If your mindset is anchored in patience and control, circumstances adjust to you. Emotional stability is leverage, and leverage wins over time. The moment you become disciplined, you become misunderstood. That's the price. The average man operates on comfort, impulse, and social approval. When you step outside that pattern, your behavior stops making sense to him. You wake up earlier, you train harder. You decline invitations. You invest instead of spend. You choose long-term gain over short-term pleasure. To him, that looks extreme. To you, it's standard. Most people don't lack intelligence. They lack structure. They don't lack opportunity. They lack consistency. Discipline is the dividing line. And here's the uncomfortable reality. When you commit to discipline at a high level, you stop speaking the same language as the average crowd. Your priorities shift. Your tolerance for excuses disappears. Your time becomes guarded. Suddenly, casual thinking irritates you. Mediocrity feels loud. Discipline is a language of precision. It says you do what needs to be done regardless of mood. It says your actions are not negotiated with emotion. That alone separates you from 90% of men, because most men are ruled by how they feel in the moment. If they're tired, they rest. If they're bored, they distract themselves. If they're frustrated, they quit. Discipline overrides all of that. When you start living this way, people label you. They call you obsessed. They say you've changed. They claim you're too serious. What they're really saying is this: you stop validating their comfort zone. Your standards expose their laziness. Your consistency exposes their inconsistency. And that makes them uncomfortable. Think about it. If you decide to train every day for 5 years, eat clean, build a business, read daily, and control your environment, you're not operating on the same mental framework as someone who drifts through life reacting to trends. You're building identity through repetition. They're chasing stimulation. Two completely different operating systems. The disciplined man understands something the distracted man never will. Freedom comes from structure, not from chaos. When you control your habits, you control your outcomes. When you control your outcomes, you control your direction. That level of control creates calm confidence. You're not hoping for results, you're engineering them. There's also a deeper shift that happens. Discipline changes how you speak to yourself. You stop negotiating internally. You stop saying maybe tomorrow. You replace it with now. That internal dialogue is powerful. It builds self-respect, and self-respect is magnetic. People sense it. They feel the difference in your posture, your tone, your decisions. But here's the hard part. Discipline is repetitive. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's doing the same correct actions over and over while resisting distraction. Most men can handle intensity for a short burst. Very few can handle structured monotony. That's why consistency is rare. And rarity is power. When you commit to disciplined behavior, you'll notice something else. Your circle changes. Conversations change. Opportunities change. Because disciplined behavior attracts structured environments. Investors trust disciplined operators. High-level professionals respect disciplined partners. Serious competitors recognize disciplined threats. It's a silent signal of reliability, and yet the average man will never adopt it fully. Why? Because discipline requires sacrifice. It demands delayed gratification. It demands emotional restraint. It demands saying no more often than you say yes. That level of control feels restrictive to someone addicted to impulse, but to the disciplined man, it feels liberating. You don't need everyone to understand your structure. You need results. You need growth. You need leverage. When you consistently execute at a higher standard, your life begins to reflect it. Not instantly, not dramatically at first, but steadily, quietly, powerfully. Eventually, the same people who questioned your seriousness will question your success. They'll wonder how you built momentum, how you created stability, how you maintained focus while they drifted. They won't see the thousands of small disciplined decisions that compounded. They won't understand the internal standards you refuse to lower. That's fine. You're not operating for their approval. You're operating from a framework they don't use. And once discipline becomes your default language, your results speak louder than any explanation ever could. Most men are in a fight against time, and they're losing. They rush decisions, chase shortcuts, and panic when results don't show up instantly. They treat time like an enemy that needs to be beaten. That mindset alone guarantees failure. Time is neutral. It doesn't work against you. It exposes you. If you're inconsistent, time magnifies your weakness. If you're disciplined, time multiplies your strength. The difference between average and elite is rarely talent. It's how they use time. The average man wants quick validation. He wants visible proof that he's winning, so he jumps from strategy to strategy, job to job, routine to routine. He confuses movement with progress, but scattered effort over years produces nothing except exhaustion. Focused effort over years produces leverage. Time rewards structure. It rewards repetition. It rewards stability. If you invest small amounts consistently, time compounds your capital. If you train consistently, time compounds your physique. If you sharpen your skills daily, time compounds your expertise. The process is predictable. The only variable is whether you have the patience to stay in it. Here's what most people ignore. Compounding works in both directions. If you waste hours every day, time compounds your mediocrity. If you make impulsive financial decisions, time compounds your losses. If you neglect your health, time compounds your decline. Time is always working. The question is whether it's building you or eroding you. Strategic men think in decades. Reactive men think in days. That single distinction creates a massive gap in outcomes. When you think in decades, short-term setbacks don't intimidate you. A bad month doesn't shake your confidence. A slow quarter doesn't destroy your focus. You zoom out, you adjust, you continue. That composure alone separates you from emotional operators. There's power in long-term positioning. If you commit to mastering a skill for 10 years, you'll become dangerous in that field. If you build a reputation for reliability over a decade, opportunities will find you. If you develop a network patiently, without burning bridges for quick wins, your influence expands naturally. This is not flashy. It's not dramatic. It's methodical. And methodical wins permanently. Most men sabotage themselves because they underestimate what 5 years of disciplined execution can do. They expect transformation in months. When it doesn't happen, they pivot too soon. They abandon momentum just before it compounds. They dig multiple shallow holes instead of one deep well. That lack of commitment is why they stay average. Time is also a filter. It filters out the weak. It filters out the inconsistent. It filters out the emotionally unstable. If you can remain focused while others get distracted, you automatically rise. Not because you're extraordinary, but because you endured. Endurance is underrated, yet endurance, applied strategically, becomes dominance. Consider business. The entrepreneur who reinvests profits steadily, refines systems gradually, and improves operations consistently will outlast the one chasing rapid expansion without foundation. Consider fitness. The man who trains intelligently for years will outperform the one who goes extreme for 6 months and quits. Consider reputation. The man who behaves with integrity over time becomes trusted. Trust becomes leverage. Leverage becomes opportunity. You don't need explosive growth. You need controlled expansion. You don't need overnight recognition. You need steady credibility. When you align your actions with long-term thinking, time becomes your silent partner. It works for you in the background while others exhaust themselves trying to outpace it. There's also psychological strength in playing the long game. When you're anchored to a long-term vision, daily distractions lose their grip. Trends don't sway you. Opinions don't derail you. You're building something larger than immediate applause. That perspective stabilizes your emotions. It sharpens your decisions. It protects your focus. The man who respects time doesn't rush it. He organizes his life around it. He builds routines that can survive years. He makes decisions he can defend long-term. He prioritizes sustainability over speed, and because of that, his growth becomes inevitable. While others burn out, he advances. While others panic, he accumulates. Time doesn't defeat him, it strengthens him. Everyone wants the spotlight. Very few can handle the shadows. Yet the shadows are where identity is built. Not on stage. Not on stage and on social media. Not in front of applause. In silence. In repetition. In the moments when nobody is watching and nobody cares. That's where the real shift happens. You don't become powerful because you announce your goals. You become powerful because you execute when it's inconvenient, when you train alone, when you study while others relax, when you work late without posting about it. That silence is uncomfortable for most men. They crave recognition as proof they're progressing. Without attention, they feel invisible. And if they feel invisible, they stop. That's weakness. Identity isn't created through public validation, it's created through private standards. The way you act when there's no audience reveals who you truly are. If your discipline depends on praise, it's fragile. If your focus depends on encouragement, it's unstable. Real transformation happens when your behavior is consistent, regardless of observation. The quiet phase tests you. It strips away ego. It forces you to confront boredom. It demands repetition without excitement. Most men cannot tolerate that. They need constant stimulation. They need to feel important. But greatness is forged in routine, in showing up daily without drama, in improving 1% at a time without applause. There's something powerful about building in silence. It sharpens your internal dialogue. Instead of seeking external noise, you start listening to your own standards. You ask harder questions. Did I execute properly? Did I waste time? Did I honor my commitment? That self-audit builds self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of confidence. Loud ambition is common. Quiet discipline is rare. Anyone can declare they're going to change. Few can endure the months where nothing visible changes. That period is dangerous. Doubt creeps in. Temptation creeps in. Old habits whisper. If your identity isn't solid, you revert. But if you've committed internally, if you've decided who you are, you push through. This is where separation happens. When you consistently act in alignment with your higher standard, even when it's inconvenient, your brain adapts. Your behavior stops feeling forced. It becomes default. You're no longer trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. That shift from effort to identity is massive. It removes friction. It removes negotiation. You don't debate whether to train. You train. You don't debate whether to work. You work. Silence accelerates this process because it eliminates performance. You're not acting disciplined for attention. You're not working hard for approval. You're doing it because it aligns with who you've decided to become. That internal alignment builds stability, and stability builds authority. There's also strategic power in quiet growth. When you move silently, you reduce pressure. You reduce expectation. You operate without distraction. While others broadcast their plans, you execute yours. While they chase reactions, you chase progress. By the time results become visible, they appear sudden. But they're not sudden. They're accumulated. Most people only see the outcome. They see the physique, the wealth, the confidence. They don't see the early mornings, the missed events, the rejected distractions, the disciplined routines repeated for years. That's fine. You're not building for their understanding. You're building for your standard. The man who thrives in silence becomes dangerous. He doesn't need validation to stay consistent. He doesn't need encouragement to maintain momentum. His motivation isn't emotional, it's structural. That makes him reliable under pressure. It makes him steady in chaos. It makes him intimidating without saying a word. When identity is built privately, it becomes unshakable publicly. Criticism doesn't break you because your foundation wasn't built on approval. Praise doesn't inflate you because your value isn't based on attention. You remain centered, focused, composed. That composure is rare, and rare men shape outcomes instead of reacting to them. Everyone loves the starting line. New goals, new plans, new energy. It feels powerful to begin. But beginnings are crowded. Motivation is common. Announcements are everywhere. The real test isn't who starts strong. It's who refuses to stop when the excitement fades and the grind becomes repetitive. That's where the winners separate themselves permanently. Most men underestimate the value of endurance. They think success is about intensity, about explosive effort, about dramatic bursts of productivity. But intensity without longevity is useless. You can sprint for a short distance. You can impress people for a moment. You can create noise. None of that guarantees results. Results belong to the man who can maintain pressure long after others lose interest. Quitting rarely feels dramatic. It's subtle. It shows up as small compromises. Skipping one workout, delaying one task, lowering one standard. Those small decisions compound. Momentum shifts quietly. Before you realize it, you're back where you started. Not because you lacked ability, but because you lacked endurance. You didn't stay in the arena long enough. Endurance is a psychological advantage. When you know you're willing to outlast your competition, your mindset changes. You stop worrying about who is ahead right now. You stop reacting to temporary setbacks. You focus on sustainability. That calm certainty is intimidating, because most people know deep down they won't last. Think about business. Markets fluctuate, trends shift, economic pressure builds. The entrepreneur who panics and pivots constantly bleeds stability. The one who adapts strategically but remains committed to the long-term vision survives downturns and thrives when conditions improve. Survival itself becomes leverage. When competitors drop out, opportunities multiply. The same principle applies to personal development. Anyone can follow a strict routine for 30 days. Very few can sustain disciplined habits for years. The man who trains consistently for a decade will outperform genetically gifted men who lack commitment. The man who invests steadily over 20 years will dominate those chasing quick profits. Longevity beats hype. There's also a reputational dimension to endurance. When people observe that you don't quit, that you maintain standards regardless of obstacles, trust builds around you. Reliability is rare. Most individuals operate in cycles of enthusiasm and burnout. When you operate steadily, you become predictable in the best way. Predictability in execution creates confidence in others. Confidence creates opportunity. Endurance requires emotional regulation. You will face boredom. You will face slow progress. You will face doubt. If you react emotionally to each obstacle, you'll burn out. But if you accept difficulty as part of the structure, you conserve energy. You move forward without drama. That composure compounds into resilience. The man who lasts the longest understands pacing. He doesn't exhaust himself trying to prove something early. He builds routines he can sustain. He manages energy intelligently. He balances aggression with recovery. This isn't about being reckless. It's about being strategic. Sustainable intensity is more powerful than occasional extremes. There's a brutal truth most people avoid. Many goals are abandoned right before momentum builds. The progress curve is not linear. Early stages feel slow. Effort seems disproportionate to results. That's the filter. Those who endure past that phase enter a different level. Results begin to accelerate. Confidence solidifies. Identity strengthens. But you only access that level if you stay. Endurance transforms you internally as well. Every obstacle you survive reinforces your belief in yourself. Every setback you outlast builds mental armor. You stop fearing difficulty because you've proven you can handle it. That self-trust becomes unshakable. And when you trust yourself deeply, your decisions become sharper. Most men chase advantage. Few build durability. Durability wins, because over time, the one who refuses to quit accumulates experience, skill, network, capital, and psychological strength. While others restart repeatedly, he continues advancing from the same foundation. That consistency creates exponential separation. If you can commit to staying in the game longer than anyone else, your probability of success increases dramatically. Not because you're lucky, not because you're gifted, but because time removes your competition, and what remains is the man who endured when it was easier to walk away. Here's the truth. If you can't wait, you don't deserve it. Power takes time. Status takes time. Mastery takes time. The only thing that's instant is failure. So decide who you are. A man who needs quick dopamine hits, or a man who can sit in the storm unmoved, building his empire brick by brick. Patience is not passive. It's pressure under control. It's violence contained. It's ambition chained to discipline. And if you can master that, you don't just win fast, you win permanently. So slow down, tighten up, lock in. Let time work for you while everyone else exposes their weakness. Because in the end, the man who can endure the longest without breaking is the man who owns everything.